Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Marriage is Tougher Than Woodpecker Lives podcast. This is Brian, joined by my co-host, Paul. We'd like to welcome you to a community meant for the men of the world to share their thoughts and perspectives on marriage. We can learn from each other's experiences and help each other be better husbands. This week on the pod, we want to talk to you about, are we living our best marriage life?
Before we hop into that episode all the way, we'd just like to say thank you for taking the time out to listen to our episode. We pray that you would just engage with our podcast. You can do that by searching Marriage is Tougher on any social media platform, or going to marriagestougher.com and clicking on the contact form and just reaching out to us. Let us know your thoughts and opinions, or if you'd like to be a guest, you can fill out that same form and we will get right back to you, figure out how to get you on the mic. All right, let's get into this episode.
So, are we living our best marriage life? What does that mean to you?
Well, I've been thinking, or I was thinking, as we were trying to find topics for the show, going through all of our lists of things we could talk about. And it's things that it's ideas or things that we've gone through or want to go through, or our experiences. And there were things on the list that pop in my mind of things that I should be doing, right? Mm-hmm. And things that I should be practicing regularly, things that I should be consistent on. And I'm just not. So I wanted to have a conversation of, there's things that I know to do that I'm not doing. There are things that I know to do as a husband that could impact our marriage in a positive way that I'm not doing. So it's either not impacting, or the lack of me doing it is bringing negative energy into my marriage. And I just wanted to be real about it, and how it can be hard, especially when you see all the areas, when you know of things that you can do better, but there's something either blocking you from doing it, or you don't have enough time to hit all the things. Or for me, I want to do all of them at once. Like, I want to work on everything at once, which means you're working on nothing when you're working on everything.
Right.
And so I'm just sitting in that space of not being where I want to be. And I feel like, there are a lot of husbands out there that could feel the same way.
Yeah. My thought to it is, a lot of the topics that I add to the list, I'd say, are things that I would like to work on. They're not always things that, they're really never things that I've perfected. But often, the things that I hear in either passing, in conversation, on other podcasts, in shows, sometimes conversations with my wife, or, conversations with you, other friends. And I say that just to say that I don't have an expectation that I'm going to implement all of the things on the list. I think that they are for sure at times necessary. At times they are, nice to haves. But I haven't created the expectation for myself that I need to be doing all of the things all the time. Because I don't believe it's possible. Right? Like, if you're going to make a recipe, right? Cook something that you've even done before, but you still need to follow the recipe. You add the ingredients one at a time. Not possible to just make the same dish by dumping everything in a pot all together all at once. Right? So I think our goal is to build into better husbands and better fathers. And that list of ingredients, right, that we have as a topic list, I think, are things that we need to fold into our recipe a little bit at a time. And I get your point. Like we're in a spot where, man, this is where we could be, this is where we are. Um, but I wouldn't, and I don't want to dwell on where we could be too much. Um, I mean, just for the simple fact that I don't know that there's no quick way to get there, right?
That's
There's no shortcut.
yeah.
It's just a lifetime of going through trials and tribulations and working through them, talking through them, offering advice to others, getting perspectives from others. And I think that's what our path is here. But I can certainly relate to feeling um, that, man, like I've been married for a while. I should be closer.
Is that, as you were sitting there, I'm like, is that a pride thing? Do I think I'm better than I am?
Ooh.
Like, is that me thinking I should arrive, not arrive, but because I know, like you said, you don't ever arrive, but I should be better. Like, am I thinking too highly of myself?
I would maybe argue the opposite, that you're not thinking highly enough of yourself,
Hmm.
right? Like consider all of the strides you've made to this point. Consider the man you were when you first were married to now, and how long it took to build into who you are now. Like, yeah, we'll always have other goals to stretch for, um, but don't let that discount where you've come from.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
And I think maybe we don't continually receive external credit for the work we've put in, right? Um, by all rights, it should be an expectation of our wives that we're working on being better. Um, but I think that might lend to that feeling we're having of, oh man, it's not enough, right?
That makes a lot of sense because you have to not pump yourself up, um, but kind of, right? Like you have to look and be like, okay, yeah, yeah, I did that. It's fine. It is on to the next, but you did achieve this,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I don't think I ever thought about it that way. But yeah, it's hard, especially if you're more personally critical. It's hard to see what you've done and be like, oh, okay, that was an accomplishment. You just continue. For me, I'll say I continue to look at the things that I have not yet achieved.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's like kind of like you're supposed to grow and move on. So that's fine. Like, yeah, you did that. Great. But you still have to work here. You still need to get better here. And I think I have to remember that I'm never arriving or I never will arrive. I'm always arriving, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm conveying that. Like I'm always trying to get there, but I never will get there. So that makes a lot more sense. Um, I just know I feel some days I feel better about it than others.
Yeah.
Um, and it's more so when I'm on the cusp of like conquering something. I'm like,
Right.
okay, yeah, okay, all right, I'm almost there. I'm doing this. All right, I'm being better. I see the fruits of this. She sees the fruits of this. Like, okay, we're it. But once that's over and it's like, okay, what's the next thing? Then it's like, oh man, I'm really not good at this. So let me figure out how to get this done. and that's when it doesn't feel as good. Um, but the the good part about that feeling that way is that means I'm conquering things.
Right.
So it's like if I'm in that space of, oh, I need to change again, it's because I've already made some changes, but I just don't think about it. Hmm.
Yeah, man. It's I think it's a constant battle across our lives for those who of us are ambitious in any right. I think my ambition to be the best husband I can be, if I'm invested in my marriage, I mean, I don't think that ever goes away, right?
I agree.
There's even the things that I feel that I may have conquered, I could probably be better at those, right? I think what helps me is my wife speaking life into those things, right? Like there's times when she just mentions that she's noticed that I've improved in an area, and that's typically all I need to keep going.
Yeah, that is a elixir of life in
Mm-hmm.
essence. Like that will get me going. That will get me hype. That will charge me on just to hear one small mention. You're right.
Yeah.
With that, it's like, do you ask for that mention?
Yes.
Okay, cool, cool. You gave that straight answer.
Yeah. Well, because I've been on both sides of it, and I've also heard other people talk about it. Right. Like ultimately, if we don't, we've got this expectation of something in our head that we need that we haven't communicated. Right. So we go back there, and then how can we expect it of her if right? Like it doesn't take the romance out of it. It doesn't take it being special out of it that we've asked for it. It's just self awareness.
For sure, that makes total sense. It's just I forget that I need it.
Mm,
That's the part. Like I forget that I need it. And then when I get it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. I can do anything. I will do anything for this woman and for this family and blah, blah, blah. But I forget that I need it.
mm,
I think that's the thing. So I need to have a conversation about needing because she won't forget that I need it once I say it one time.
right.
Hmm. What's that conversation look like? Because I've never asked for it.
So for me, I'm trying to remember when this first happened, um, because that was a very uncomfortable conversation for me to. Because if I'll put it this way, it feels like it should just be something natural that happens. I think that's what we convince ourselves of, right? Like I convince myself that if I have to ask for this, is it really as important to her as I perceive that it should be? Right. And I don't want to say that my perception of a situation should be discounted in any way. But if I have not communicated how important something is to me, how can I really have the expectation that she consider it? Right. Now,
Yeah.
granted, sometimes those things happen naturally, and that's a really great feeling. Um, but being self aware of the things you need from your wife and communicating them are really a way to love her as well.
You're talking right. Never thought about it in that way. But now I have to think about it in that way.
Yeah. I mean, imagine walking into a relationship and not having any discussion about what fulfills you, or, you know, what your expectations from a relationship or marriage are. How are you ever going to get those things unless it, like I said, occasionally happens naturally? But, um, and then also think about the feedback you give when you receive, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I guess a better way to put that is, if you stated that, hey, this is important to me, I really need to hear these words, and then she does it, but you don't respond or don't show an appreciation or acknowledgement of her, taking that step and giving you what you said you needed, how likely is it to come back?
Yeah.
Like, you said you needed this, but then like it fell flat. So why would I do that?
That's a good point. I was thinking about what you said, but that means I have to take the time to figure out what I need.
Right.
And so I don't know if I've ever given time to tangibly put that down in like a thought,
Mm.
right? And be like, oh, it'd be nice to have that. And oh, it feels good right here. But then it's a fleeting moment. It's not like, oh, like that actually just gave me life. I should probably say that I want that more. It's usually just like, oh man, that was nice. And then like on to the next thing. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think I slow down enough to consider, or I don't think I put in the time to just let me take some time and figure out what I need, what is really
Yeah.
refreshing to me, what is something that would, you know, charge me to keep going.
Hmm.
Hmm.
When those things happen in my marriage, I often get this huge smile on my face and I get lost in thought. My wife has made it a habit to ask me, what's going on right now? Like, what are you thinking about? And the more honest I can be in those situations, I think the better it is for my marriage, right? Like, if I force myself to say more than, oh, that just felt really good, right? And I walk through her in an open conversation, um, like, man, that really felt good for this reason, right? Like that, man, like that really filled me up. Just those couple words you said, it's been something I've been struggling with for a while, and to hear you say that you're seeing improvement means a lot to me.
That's
So I
good.
think that's just an easy space to make that transition, and have that practice of revealing to not only her but yourself what some of those needs might be. But, outside of that situation, putting more thought into what is it uh, that fills me, so you can have that conversation as well.
Yeah, it's two sided, doing it in the moment and then sitting and trying to recall those moments so you could know what happened in those moments to bring it up.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Intentionality makes a lot of sense. And I think that's, yeah, that would take away me feeling like I'm not living in my best marriage, even though it's pretty good. If I had more, if I knew what I needed to kind of stay charged, keep going, or even feel like I'm headed in the right direction.
Hmm.
So, yeah, my mind leads to the negative or the not at all. It doesn't really lean to the positive for myself, but I can see the positive in everyone else, everything else. Like I can point out the positivity so easy,
Yeah.
but it's tough when I have to reflect it back on myself. So what you're saying is to live your best marriage, be your best husband, is to reflect on what you've accomplished while working on things to the other things that you need to work on to achieve the goals of the things that you're working on.
Yeah, I would say keep an abundance mindset, right? There's all these things out there that can be done. For the fact that I haven't done them yet doesn't make me any less. I know that I can do them. It's just the intentionality of adding them to my repertoire.
That's good. Well, we can end on that. Well,
Yeah,
thank
fair
you.
enough.
Thank you for listening to this pod. Hopefully you got something out of it. Hopefully it was relatable to you. If it was, please share it with someone. Or if it piqued your mind that someone may need to hear this, please share it. If you like it, please like our podcast or subscribe. That will help you get our content as soon as we put it out. And look us up on Marriage is Tougher on any social media platform. If you'd like to talk to us, go deeper on this, or you have a comment, or you can go to marriageisttougher.com, hit the contact form, and leave your message there. Again, we appreciate you taking the time to listen and to watch. And until next time, we'll chat later.
Peace.